This is a senior rehab podcast, the podcast for rehab clinicians that want to better serve older adults.
Hey there, Senior Rehab podcast listeners. I'm Tali Spaceman.
I'm Erinn Carey.
And this is Senior Rehab Project Prereqs.
SR Prereqs.
Yes. How's it going?
Oh, just doing great, thank you. How about you?
I'm good. We're still in our series about ageism.
Yeah, still. There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot. When we first started, we said, oh, we'll do just 4 episodes.
Yeah,
and
4 is fine.
4 is fine.
It's not.
And, yeah.
Like, we still have interviews coming. Like, this just goes on and on and on.
You do not know what you entered. So, I have a question.
Go.
When I say risk-taking, what are your associations?
People who exhibit risk-taking behavior often have higher intelligence and higher drug use.
Okay, but ageism doesn't come to mind,
not
right?
at all. Not for a second. Never. Nope, I think of drugs and smart.
Like when you see Ozzy Osbourne, you're not like, I bet he's ageist.
You're right. I've never thought that in my life. You're correct.
Thank you. I'm very observant.
Yeah.
But yes, also higher drug use and usually higher intelligence.
Yeah, but that's measured by IQ, which is a really flawed metric of intelligence.
It is. For the last month, we were talking about ageism. I thought it would be a good idea to see how ageism affects the ageists.
Wait a minute. Wait. You want to talk about how ageism affects ageists?
Yes. I don't want to say ageists because it's a strong word and people that exhibit ageist behavior.
That's very person-centered language, and that's very progressive of you.
Thank you. I'm trying. Ever since I met you, I'm trying to be a better person.
Oh, Tali.
Yeah,
I've been getting worse.
Yeah, yin and yang kind of thing. I wanted to see how being ageist or having ageist behaviors or thoughts actually benefit or doesn't benefit you. Who knows?
In what way?
Well, you will see.
Oh, God. I forgot. There's research coming.
I forgot. The article I will talk about today was published in 2011 in Current Psychology.
Current, like, up to date.
Yes.
Cool.
So when I dove into this rabbit hole of how ageism affect people with ageist beliefs.
It's a rabbit hole? Oh, no.
It's a rabbit hole. Everything is a rabbit hole. So a lot of articles refer to this article.
Oh, so it's a really influential document.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds great.
The name of the article is Ageism, Sensation-Seeking, and Risk-Taking Behavior in Young Adults.
So we're specifically looking at the ageist thoughts or the ageist perceptions of young adults and the correlation with risk-taking and sensation-seeking behavior.
Yes, but other things too. So we're
more.
Yeah, because it's not only ageist thoughts, it's also ageist behaviors. Yeah, I'm gonna get into that later, but I want to talk a little about the background. Risk-taking in adolescents and young adults is a major public health issue, especially in the United States, but in other countries too. Why it is such a concern? It's for 2 things. The link between risk-taking and mortality.
Oh, I was gonna ask why it's such an issue, but that makes sense.
And the cost on society.
Based on mortality, or are we talking about like hospital bills or like...
Both hospital bills, rules that need to be...
Like no loitering.
Yeah.
I see.
I'm not judging people with risk-taking behavior. I personally think there's a balance for everything and people cannot live their life like they're in a cotton ball.
Oh, that's a really lovely thought. Like being in a cotton ball.
So prior research has identified a variety of factors associated with risk-taking by adolescents and young adults. For example, the persistent desire for stimulating novel experiences has been found to be a strong predictor.
That is so unsurprising.
And how you call that, the persistent desire for stimulation and novel experiences, the term sensation-seeking. I have to say that sensation-seeking has been used to describe that trait, and a growing body of literature suggests that there are biological correlates associated with sensation-seeking.
Really?
Yeah, of course. Do you want
This is news to me.
I can go into them a little bit if you want.
Oh, I'm very curious.
It has to do a lot with There are 2 dimensions of sensation seeking that has been related to response to dopamine and serotonin system in the brain.
Yeah, so like I think of risk-taking and sensation-seeking, and I think of like those squirts of dopamine that you get in your brain when you do something exciting and fun and that you enjoy.
Yeah.
It's something like daredevils and people who love roller coasters.
Yeah, and those are usually relate to... So sensation-seeking, which I'll go into, have 4 dimensions. The 2 that relate to the serotonergic system and the dopamine system in the brain are disinhibition and experience seeking.
This sounds
So yeah, it sounds like, the roller coasters. And,
Yeah. And letting loose.
Yeah, there are others that one of the greatest researchers of sensation seeking, named Zuckerman, found a negative correlation between sensation seeking and levels of MAO.
Oxidase?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Stop it.
Monoamide oxidase, which, as you know, it's one of the first antidepressants.
The MAOIs.
Yeah.
The monoamine oxidase inhibitors.
The first generation of antidepressants.
This is so cool.
Yeah. Worked on that.
The monoamine oxidase enzyme.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
It's okay.
This is very exciting.
It's okay. It was a cool rabbit hole to crawl through. So I'll go into that later, but
Wait, does that mean that you can treat risk-taking and sensation-seeking behavior with MAOIs?
you can't treat it completely. It's a combination of
That plus many other things.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Sensation seeking is a personality trait that defined by the search of experience and feelings that are varied, novel, complex, and intense. And by the readiness to take physical, social, legal, and financial risks for the sake of that experience.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Just more background, Popham et al. Found that young adults reporting more negative attitudes about aging and more ageist behaviors were found to engage in more risk-taking behavior than those reporting less negative attitudes about aging.
What? Okay, how did they measure these things?
I will go to that later. There are a few questionnaires that we talk about.
Okay, why? What?
So
Where does this come from? What, are these related?
There's a good...
Can ageism be solved with MAOI inhibitors?
So one of the things that they talk the most about is the terror management theory.
Okay, go. This
Okay.
sounds really cool.
It's a theory that grew out of the work of cultural anthropologist Ernest Becker in 1973.
I don't know who that is, but cool.
It's okay. He recognized fear of mortality as an important element of human psychology. Terror management theory proposes that individuals buffer their death anxiety by obtaining self-esteem from their culture. One of the ways is distancing themselves from their future older selves by stereotyping and stigmatizing older adults. And I kind of want to get to the study, but just another study that I found, and maybe we'll do something about that too, we'll see, is that people that grew up around old people that had in their society older people that were close, going to see your grandma once a week or more than that, hopefully.
Or they like live nearby or even in the home.
Yeah. Had less ageist beliefs and less risk-taking behaviors. Because...
Both? What?
One of the things that they saw that there's a future. You don't just... It's not live today because you may not live tomorrow. But take care of your body because you may leave tomorrow.
What? This is so cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Take care of your bodies because you may live tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would have never put that together. Full disclosure, when you were like ageism and risk-taking behavior, I was like, weird. Why?
I'm a weirdo. It's fine.
No. But now I get it. This is so cool.
Yeah. This research examined further the extent to which ageism and sensation-seeking are related to risk-taking in young adults.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so we're talking about 3 factors. Risk-taking, which is what we try to find out, ageism, and sensory-seeking.
Okay. Risk-taking, ageism, sensory-seeking.
So, sensation-seeking is assessed usually in a self-reported questionnaire, and it has 4 dimensions. A, thrill and adventure seeking. B, experience seeking.
Okay. So different types of risk-taking.
Experience is any new experience. Disinhibition.
Cool.
And D, boredom susceptibility.
Wait, so this is, what's the name of this questionnaire?
It's sensation-seeking scale. Do you want to hear about the methods first, though, before you hear about the questionnaires?
Yeah, let's do methods.
Okay. So, participants. The participants were 475 undergraduates from Oklahoma State University, 310 women, 161 men.
Way more women. Why?
Yeah. A lot more women usually take psychology in undergrad.
It was a sample of convenience. I hope they use that terminology.
Yes, they did.
Good. Sample of convenience.
Yeah. And 4 unreported. And it was in exchange for partial course credit, which I think is not that ethical.
But I'm glad that they acknowledge it, and I'm glad that they point it out.
They did, and also after that, they acknowledged that most 75% were white. Yeah, but they acknowledged that ageist beliefs and risk-taking also has to do with your upbringing and sometimes where you came from.
Yeah. Okay, well, all right. I'm glad they point out those limitations.
Yeah. The original sample was larger. It was 483 participants.
What happened to them?
So
Did they kill them?
Yes, that's what happened. Good job, Erinn.
Research is dangerous.
They exhibit too much risky behavior.
Oh my God, yes! Yes! Too risky.
No, because it's questionnaires and some of them ask about drug use or stuff like that. Some people, if you don't have enough answers that you answered, the questionnaire is not valid, so it's not usable.
Yep.
So that's what happened. 8 just didn't answer enough questions on the questionnaires.
I see. Okay.
And the measurements we were measuring 4 things: risk-taking, sensation-seeking, ageist beliefs, and ageist behaviors. Being ageist has 2 components. One is the beliefs, and one is the behavior. Risk-taking was measured by the CDC State and Local Youth Risk Behavior Survey, or YRBS.
They all are acronyms, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. The Youth Risk Behavior Survey has, again, the 4 components: A, cigarette, tobacco use; B, alcohol; C, illicit drug use; D, sexual behavior that contribute to unintended pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases, including HIV infection.
Wait, it's only drugs and sex? Not like rock climbing at night while on acid? I mean, that's drugs. But like doing risky things like base jumping or like BMX?
No, because those are a little bit more subjective. Some would say that you working in a hospital in the Bronx where the shooting rates are...
So many gunshot wounds.
So many gunshot wounds. Risky.
It's actually, to be fair, it's actually not so many. A lot more strokes. A lot more diabetes.
Yeah. Some would say that crossing the street, living in New York is risky behavior.
I see.
All the components have at least 0.7...
sensitivity, specificity?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Okay.
That's cool.
The subscale with the most reliability values is the risky sexual behavior with 0.91. The Fraboni scale of ageism, or FSA, was used to assess ageist attitudes. The scale is made out of 29 attitudinal statements about older adults, like many old people are stingy and hoard their money and possessions.
That makes me really sad to hear.
Yes. That's fine.
Ageism sucks.
And you answer on a 4-point Likert scale.
More agree versus disagree.
Yeah, strongly disagree to strongly agree.
All right.
Again, reliable, valid. The ROPE, which is relating to older people evaluation, was... Yes. You can laugh.
That's the worst name.
Yeah. ROPE.
Like, what does the word rope conjure in your mind?
Suicide.
Yeah, duh! And it's talking about older people.
Suicide and Jean Valjean. It was used to assess ageist behaviors. as opposed to attitudes. Remember, there are two components.
Right. Behaviors versus attitudes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Questions are, how often participants engage in 20 ageist behaviors? Have a 3-point scale: 0, never; 1, sometimes; 2, often.
Okay. But this relies on them being honest.
Yes. One of the question is, how often do you ignore old people because they are age? But there are also positive ageist behaviors. How often do you compliment old people about how well they look for their age? Despite their age. Scores are just summed. In this one, the more negative ageist behaviors have more reliability in. The last one, the Sensation-Seeking Scale, or SSS5 by Zuckerman, contains 40 items, 2 options to which you have two possible answers to each one.
Okay.
And it has 4 subscales. One is Thrill and Adventure Seeking, or TAS, Experience Seeking, ES, Disinhibition, or DIS, and Boredom Susceptibility.
I mean, that was the one you talked about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. The questionnaires were administered online. It was in the same order.
And it was only once?
Also because some risk-taking questions involved illegal activities, like drug use or sensitive subjects like sexual behavior, participants were given the option not to respond to specific questions.
They got the surveys.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, if you don't feel like responding to this, you don't have to.
Yeah, to a certain question, like those questions specifically.
But then...
I know, that's where it gets a little fishy. Though the highest percentage of participants that chose not to respond to a question was the one that they avoided the most, was about sex during your life. With how many people have you had sexual intercourse?
Did they take religious demographic information with this?
I think so, yeah.
I'm curious. Anyway.
But it was only 5.1% that didn't answer that question.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good work, Oklahoma.
And that's one of the benefits of doing a survey online and not that one person should handle it. Because especially in small universities, or you don't want the TA to might have recognized your handwriting.
Right. Because if that TA you got a little crush on.
Yeah.
You want to impress.
But the majority of questions had less than 1% of participants choosing not to respond to them.
That's really good.
Do you want to talk about the results?
Let me make sure I understand the methods. So it was a group of about 400 students at Oklahoma State University?
Uh-huh. Average age was below 20.
Yeah.
So they were all
like
freshmen.
First year, undergrads.
Yeah.
Mostly women, given a bunch of surveys to talk about their sensation-seeking behavior, their risk-taking behavior, their ageist attitudes, and their ageist behaviors.
You summed it right?
Cool. And then they just analyze it.
Yes.
All right, cool. Results. Let's hear it.
Okay. So as in prior research, they observed significant intercorrelation between the sensation-seeking subscales. Because it's not like, oh, I'll do a lot of drugs, but not tobacco. Like it's...
What?
So for the sensation-seeking, remember that I talked about the 4 subscales? Mm-hmm. They usually correlate.
Got it.
So ageist attitudes correlated positively with ageist behavior.
Well, no surprise.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised.
Great, there's more data to show that, so...
Yeah, there are... by the way, it's open source, so you can look at the...
Yes!
But I have to say that the tables are not that pretty.
You know, I'll take open source and ugly tables.
Ageist attitudes were positively correlated with all 4 categories of risk-taking.
What?
Yes.
Okay, so I was expecting a correlation, not like all 4. That's so interesting.
Yeah. And ageist behaviors were positively correlated with 3 of the 4 categories of risk-taking category. In beliefs, they correlated completely. In behaviors, only it correlated with 3 subscales, with the alcohol use, with the cigarette use, and drug use, and not that much with the unsafe sex. So in the discussion, I like what they wrote, that most importantly, when holding sensation-seeking constant, ageist behavior was significant and unique predictor of risk-taking. individuals reporting higher amount of ageist behavior engage in more risk-taking. It means that we need to educate. And educate is not only pointing a finger like, be nice to old people.
No, that's not education. That's a demand. And no one likes demands.
Even I see all those videos of small children going to visit in nursing homes. Mm-hmm. And,
exposure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you see that it's not a different species. It's you in 50 years.
Yeah. Well, 80 if they're small.
Yeah,
humans.
if they're small.
If they're like little babies.
No, I meant for like
for us.
I meant for the college kids. We're closer. Yeah. So that's it mostly, that having ageist behaviors and beliefs in the end affect whoever holds those beliefs. And that's why it's important not only for the older people that we would solve that problem, but actually it's not only for our future selves, it's for our present selves as well. And it's almost like when you see kids in very poor and unfortunate neighborhoods that they drop out of high school because they never saw someone successful go to high school and actually grow up to be more successful than being in a gang.
The importance of role models, I think.
Yes. And it's
critical here.
And again, with what I read in other research, it wasn't only having successful aging, but it was also people with connection with people with dementia or diabetes or other diseases. Mm-hmm. It's better than nothing.
Yeah. Seeing people at an older age and seeing how your life will, if things go well, could be, I think is very important for growth. It's very important for being a person in society.
Yeah. So that's all I had to say for today.
That was a boss article.
I'm glad.
The connection between risk-taking behavior and ageism, I would have never made that initially. But you making the point of like, well, they spend a lot of time with older adults. They see that life goes on after they're like teenagers. Like it really resonates with me.
You see that the body that you have, you need to make it last for longer.
You got to change the oil. You got to take it to the mechanic.
Yeah. You see that, like, you know what?
That's going to be me.
I might not want to chop my liver with alcohol.
Yeah.
All right.
I like that a lot.
I'm glad. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening to us today. You have been listening to SR Prereqs. I'm Erinn Carey.
And I'm Tali Spaceman. And as always, stay
funky.
Hit me! Thank you for listening to the Senior Rehab Podcast. If you only listen to these podcast episodes, you are missing out on 90% of the Senior Rehab Project. Hop on over to seniorrehabproject.com where you can join the movement that's advancing care for older adults. You can join for free or become a part of the Game Changers where you can get some free gear and access to our monthly meetup. Just go to seniorrehabproject.com. I appreciate y'all, and I'll talk with you soon. But in the meantime, do not forget to stay funky.